In our science classes, we often have to let the value of something be represented by a variable, by a letter, x. V for velocity, T for time, whatever. So this section is going to be an introduction in problem solving where we take some simple sentences and we let x represent an unknown and we try to find the value for that. And what we're going to do as we are problem solving here is we're going to get used to words here like difference, meaning subtraction. For times a number means to multiply, times means to multiply. Is the same as will represent a phrase that we use for an equal sign. Twice the number is going to be represented by the letter x. So twice that number will be 2x. So anyway, if we read this sentence again, the difference of 4 times a number, which we're going to call the letter x, and 1 is the same as twice the number. Excuse me. So again, difference means to subtract. So the difference of 4 times a number and 1. So subtract 1. So here, the way we see this is the way we write it in terms of subtraction. It says find the difference of these two things, 4 times a number and 1. So 4 times a number and 1, and find the difference. Is the same is my equal sign as twice the number. Remember, the number is represented by the letter x. Let's come up here, and x represents the number that we're trying to solve for. We now have a math sentence, an algebra sentence, where we can solve this statement. So what we'll do is we'll subtract 4x from both sides because we want to get this minus 1 alone, and we want to get the variable x over to the right-hand side. This is not the way you have to do it, but it's the quickest. 2x minus 4x is a negative 2x. And now in order to solve for x, I'm going to divide both sides by a negative 2 in order to make this become a 1x. And then over here I'm just going to write that I have x is equal to a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I'll write that answer as a positive 1/2. Let's do this again. So now we have the difference between 5 times a number. So remember, x represents the number. And one of the things you might do as you do these problems is you might highlight the portion that's going to separate the phrases. So is equal to, that's where your equal sign is going to go. So what's to the left of that, which is the difference between 5 times a number and the number 2. 5 times a number and the number 2, and it says the difference. Again, is equal to. On the right side of that equal sign, it's the sum. So the sum means to add. The sum of 8 times the number, that's x. 8 times the number. The sum of 8 times a number and 13. So 8 times the number is the 8x. It says and 13, and I wanted to set it equal to the sum of 8 times the number and 13. Now I'm going to solve for x, so I'll subtract 5x from both sides. Now I will subtract 13 from both sides. Don't forget the negative sign with your 2. So let's subtract 13 from both sides. I see I did not give myself enough space. This is equal to a negative 15. And then we'll bring the 3x down. And now we'll divide both sides by 3. And we'll find out that x is equal to a negative 5. My solution for question number 2. Don't forget that you could take 5 times that answer. So 5 times a negative 5. And then you want to take the difference of 2. Or you could put it back in this original problem. The only problem is if you wrote this incorrectly, then you're checking it in a statement that wasn't correct. But you could do that. Again, it did say the difference between 5 times a number, our number was a negative 5, and 2 is equal to 8 times that number and the sum of that with 13. So if you check this negative 25 minus 2, this is getting extremely messy. I think I'll go ahead and erase. So I'm doing the check right now. And I'm going to go ahead and erase all of this for sake of the next problem. So when I put this -5 in here, I have a -25 minus 2 on the left. Order of operations here says to multiply and then add the 13. This total is a -27, and a -40 plus 13 is a -27 as well. So I've checked it, and it works out just fine. All right, let's go ahead. That got a little messy. I apologize. So it's going to get a little bit harder, and I probably haven't left myself enough room. I'm going to try to write a little smaller. 6 less than 2 times a number, and then is the same as. So that's where my equal sign goes. Be careful. 6 less than 2 times a number is not written as 6 minus 2x. It is not written like that. It was written as 2 times a number and take away 6. 6 less than 2 times a number. Another way for you to check that is if I said to you, what is 6 less than 10? What is 6 less than 10? Wouldn't you take 10 minus 6 to tell me the answer is 4? Again, 6 less than 10 is 4, so you had to do this backwards. So 6 less than 2 times a number is 2 times a number minus 6. Then is the same as 5 times the sum of a number and 4. Be careful. 5 times, and then we have to do the sum of a number and 4. 5 times the sum of a number and 4. So I've got to put that sum of a number and 4 in parentheses, and then think of 5 times it. Now I'll go ahead and distribute this in order to solve this. So I'll have 5x plus 20 on the right, and 2x minus 6 on the left. I'm going to go ahead and copy that over. So 2x minus 6 is equal to 5x plus 20. I'm going to choose to subtract 2x from both sides because that will make the x coefficient a 3, because 5 minus 2 is 3. If you don't mind, I'm going to subtract 20 at the same time as well. I'm doing that so that the x term, 5x minus 2x, is 3x on the right. The 20s are gone. These x's over here are gone. A -6 and a -20 combines to be a -26. And I divide both sides by 3. And don't be afraid of fractions for answers of a -26 over 3. Or, you know, that could be called a -8 and 2/3. So you could write it as a mixed fraction as well. Okay, next problem, getting a little bit more challenging. We've got a 38-foot piece of rope. So here's that rope. 38 feet in length. It's cut into 3 pieces. I'm going to go ahead and do it. So here's a piece, and here's a piece. So that the second piece is 3 times as long as the first piece. And the third piece is 5 feet more than 7 times the length of the first piece. So we keep comparing things to this first piece. Let's let that first piece be represented by the letter X. So that's going to be the first piece. This one right here, let's go back now. It's cut into 3 pieces. The second piece is 3 times as long as the first. Here's the first. This one is 3 times as long as that first. This last piece, the third piece, is 5 feet more than, means to add, 5 feet more than 7 times the length of the first piece. The first piece is X, so 7 times the length of the first piece, but 5 feet more than, and remember that the total dimensions of this piece of rope is 38 feet in length. So the sum of these 3 segments, the first one, the next one, and then the next piece, which is represented by 7x plus 5, has to equal 38. So now I combine my like terms. 1x, 3x, and 7x adds to be 11x. Now I'll subtract 5 from both sides, and I'll get 33. on the right-hand side, and when I divide by 11, I'll find out that the smallest, or the first piece, is 3 feet in length. So this piece right here is 3 feet in length. That's my value for x. So this one's got to be 3 times that. So this one's got to be equal to 9 feet, because 3 times 3. And then here, if I took 7 times 3, 7 times 3 is 21, and I add 5 to that, I get 26 feet for the third piece. Let's list them. 3 feet, 9 feet, and 26 feet. I wonder if they add up to be 38 feet, because that would be a pretty nice check for myself, and they sure do. We'll come back and do some work with consecutive even and odd integers, and actually just consecutive integers in our next segment when we look at problem solving.